It's it. Oh, I gave it away. Basically, I'm a walking movie quote, right? Everybody knows this.
Yes.
When I did this, I said that's why I did the whole setup in the announcements, because we are a fellowship, right? And we have the Ing Bible, and I called it we're inging each other, right? So this is the fellowship of the Ing. Yeah. Yeah, you can laugh at me or with me, don't care, but it's there. That's what I kind of dubbed this place of what we do here. Interestingly enough, with all of that, I have to make an admission. I've been kind of terrible at church, congregation, fellowship my whole life, okay? It's been an on-again, off-again thing. I haven't fully participated in it accurately. I've used several excuses in my life to not participate. Okay? What's the primary excuse I'll use? Work. You know, I had a job that worked Sundays. Then it was every other Sunday. Then God gave me a chance of actually being here every Sunday. Excuse is gone. But I still will use them, right? And if we're all being honest, if I'm up here saying, guys, I'm terrible at this. I'm just getting better at it, that's all. This is what we're all doing. I don't think there's a person, one of us, that would sit here and go, yeah, I've been great about fellowshipping with people. Right? That's not a common attribute about what we do. Sometimes we're faking it. Sometimes our attitudes are not quite into it. Sometimes we're just physically tired. Sometimes we don't feel great. And age is a wonderful thing for us, making us feel great all the time, does it not? Okay? So I want to talk a little bit about who we are here and what is this inging thing I'm talking about? What do I mean by inging and that we ing with each other? Okay? So who are we? Well, primarily I did introduce us. We are a fellowship. We are a group of people that meet together, that share life experiences together, that hopefully share our burdens and our troubles, our joys, and things of that nature. And this group in this place has done a pretty good job of developing an atmosphere that allows us to do this. One of the things about that is that we are congregational. Congregational is this. There's ways in which churches are set up across the United States, and there's three basic ways. There's the Episcopalian way. What's Episcopalian? What do you say? Yeah, well, there's a church governing structure in the Episcopalian method. Think Catholic Church, think bishops, archbishop. So they have local, state, country level, and they even have a world level of leadership, correct? That all dictate what happens really down to the individual church. Episcopalians are that way. Several of the denominations are that way. Other denominations are Presbyterian. Now, that don't mean just the Presbyterian church. But what it means is they have general assemblies that gather together and make decisions for bodies and groups, whether it's at the state level or at the local level. And they have a lot of influence at what happens on a group and on an individual congregation. If the group gets too small or something happens, they can actually take that group back over and do something with. Us as a body here in this church, we're congregational. Congregational means this. We, as a body, as a group of people, dictate what happens here. There are no ruling authorities over top of this church. You guys determine how we really do this. There are elders that are involved here, so there's 5 of us elders plus Will. I call him as the 6th elder, really, because that's how we do this. We do pay him money to be able to provide the services of teaching and guiding throughout this, because in this society you kind of have to have somebody that does that. And so we do that with Will, but he's really alongside us as an elder. But if all of a sudden the Southern Baptist Convention decided they didn't like what we said, they couldn't come and take this from us. They could just disassociate from us. I like that. I actually like the fact that we have control over what happens here, this building and so forth. As a congregation, we are very people-driven. And I mean the opposite of that is program-driven. Program-driven is you found the right book, you found the right outline, you found the right structure to run your church, and you said, we're going to run our church like that, right? I'm not bashing on the purpose-driven church, but a lot of churches took the purpose-driven church and took it to an extreme and said, this is the model of church we're going to run, and we're going to run these programs like this. And if we do A, B, C, D, and E, it all's going to work out, and we're going to have a great big church, and everybody's going to be happy. Okay? That's not this place. When we get together as elders, we don't sit back and go, well, our attendance last week was 75. We definitely want to have a goal of hitting 350. What do we got to do to hit 350? That is not a thought process. I don't even think that's been a word said once in the leadership of this church. We have not been numbers driven. We are people driven. What does our people want? What do they need in their life to be able to grow their relationship with Jesus and then fellowship together? Okay? We are a now-focused church. This is about your relationship with God and with Jesus right now. Okay? That's a lot of times as human beings, we either get drugged down by our past or we get limited by our fears of the future. Right? We either feel shame about our past and we don't turn to God, or we feel fearful of the future and we hole up in our little bomb shelters. Okay? That is not about who this church is. This church is about what is going on in your life. Jesus wants you to come to him now, not after you've gotten right with Jesus. Okay? And finally, we want to be a church sharing with each other in grace and in truth. Right? Jesus came and he was full of what? Grace and truth. There are bodies, there are congregations, there are churches that lean one way or the other. And those are actually concepts that grow your church pretty well because you bring a lot of people of very common threads together and they tend to want to congregate with you. There are either churches that talk all about truth and just hit truth, 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 but make everybody so ashamed of who they are and what they are, they never share with each other, and they feel guilt and condemnation all the time. Right? It's all truth, but no grace. And you just sit back and you hide in your suits and in your dresses, and you say, yes, I'm all good, and then you run off into your homes, and you make sure you don't share any of that together. Or the opposite of that, all grace. Everybody's okay. Everybody's going to go to Jesus. It'll be just fine. You never talk about truth, and you actually never get down to the real things that are happening in your life that are constantly going on. Our lives are challenging, are they not? They are. They have issues. They have things that happen. They have moments and problems. And just telling me, oh, it's just all about Jesus, just go love everybody, is not getting to the heart of the problem. And that's where those people go. We want to be one that does both. We bring truth in grace by what we do. That was very attractive to me about this particular church. Okay? I had opportunities we moved here in 2009, we came here to this church, then we went away and didn't go to church for a while, then we came back, then I helped my dad with his church. But one of the things that always struck me about this place was the people and how they interacted together. There was a quality of person that was here that was different from a lot of places that I would go to. One of the things that drives those relationships and things, we have 5 levels of communication in which we communicate with, okay? This is kind of fun. The first one, we all communicate on a cliche level. Somebody give me an example of a cliche level of communication. How are you doing? What do I say? Fine. I'm okay. No, am I okay? Probably not. Okay? I might be, but most of the time I'm not. I don't really care how I'm doing. You don't really care, right? You asked the question and you didn't really care. How are the kids? How was work? Cliche level communication we do on a day-to-day basis. We do out of polity. The word, I've created a word. I don't know, I think it's a word. Is that a word? Piety is a word, right? It is a word. Okay, good. But out of piety, we kind of lie to each other, right? Now, they're not massive lies. I'm not trying to change the world with this lie. But out of piety, there is almost a requirement of me to answer your "how are you doing" with "fine," even though things aren't fine. Okay. Second level communication, we get to facts. Give me some facts. What are some facts questions you might ask about a person? Email. What's your email address? That's good. What other facts in your conversations? What might you ascertain from somebody in terms of facts? How's the weather? Where do you work? How many kids do you have? Where are you from? Right? We've now moved beyond the level of cliche, and we've gotten comfortable enough to say, what are some facts about you? How are you doing? The next level is interesting because it's now, once you've ascertained kind of the cliches and you've gotten into the fact level of communication, you can now express opinions, but these opinions have to be pretty generic. They have to be about other things that are outside the world kind of in which you're in. Politics, what's happening with the local economy, the fact that they're building all these buildings here and we may or may not have water to supply all of them in this area, correct?
Correct.
So we get to the point of being able to share general opinions with each other as long as they don't go too deep. And a lot of times, even particularly when churches become homogenous about them, they all share kind of the same opinions about particular subjects, right? And when somebody shares a different opinion of that, they're kind of ostracized out of it, all right? The funny part about this level, these three levels of communication, though, is this. If you don't follow them, it makes people uncomfortable, okay? What is my example of that? How many people have seen the NASA is a hoax guy? Okay? He drives around he's got a Dodge Ram truck, and he has scratched in, I sell cars I sell at the Dodge dealership. I do not want to take his truck in for trade. Just saying, okay? NASA is a hoax. He says, flat earth society. Interestingly enough, if you ever have an opportunity to come across him individually, first of all, he's probably going to yell something. He'll drive it, he'll go to the ends of events and drive around yelling out of his pickup, gathering attention so people see him. One of my sales guys walked behind him up in a line at a store, right? Walked behind him and sat there, and the guy just looked at me and said, "Did you know NASA was a hoax?" And he's kind of got a dry sense of humor. He went, "I've heard that." He's like, "Yeah, they just did all that." He went, "Yep, that sounds about right." Okay? That guy makes people uncomfortable. Why? He jumps straight to opinion, and strong opinion at that. He doesn't go through the, "Hi, how are you? Here are the facts about me." Getting to that level of being able to then maybe express in a way that you might hear this opinion. Street preachers do this when they're out on a street corner, yelling, screaming. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But what have they done? They're yelling and screaming out their opinion without getting into the relationship level with people. But if most places, though, unfortunately stop right here, congregations, groups, we all stop at this level of communication, and this is all we ever do, sometimes for 10, 15, 20 years with each other. The next two levels of communication, though, require us to do something more. The next one is emotional. Once you get beyond opinion, you now get to an emotional level with things that are being said. Things are being shared that now touch certain places in us. That sometimes this can be a negative, sometimes this can be a positive. Hopefully in the positive sense, it begins to move you into understanding something more about yourself, something more about God, something more about the truth. And the last level is transparency, where you have a relationship that becomes transparent about the things that you're going through versus the things that they're going through. One of the great things that can happen in any group, and it's happening here, this is what I love about what we're doing, is as we share in group sessions, whether we're on Thursday night, Thursday morning, Wednesday with the women, Mondays or Tuesdays with Linda. Hi, Linda. How are you back there? There she is. Or we're out here on Sunday evenings from 4 to 6. When people share what's really going on and what they're really thinking, we get to see it's not just me. We hole up into our little psychoses thinking, I'm the one with all these problems. Everybody else is perfect. I saw them all on Facebook. Look at their Facebook. That Facebook like's great. Mine stinks. Right? That's what the world does to us, and it keeps us from ever going to these places. God asks us to do something different than the world. And there's some concepts. We've been going through the Sermon on the Mount on my Thursday nights. And I want to share some things from the Sermon on the Mount that might help guide us into how we get through to these emotional levels and transparent levels with each other, and then grow this fellowship even more into what we need to be. I introduced the Ing Bible because it was fun to say Fellowship of the Ing, but also because I'm going to use it during this time. So here's a very common verse. Ask, seek, and knock. Be asking, and it will be given to you. Be seeking, and you will find. Be knocking, and it will be open to you. Now, anything you say can and will be used against you in my sermons. Okay? So my boss, I was talking to him yesterday about this, general manager of my store, and he goes, that's a universal truth. That just doesn't have to do with God. Right? Our problems, do we not ask for our problems? Do we not seek after the things that become problems for us? And do we not knock on those doors and those problems become evident to us? Right? This is not just something that you do for God. This is how you get anywhere in this life. This is how problems, issues come about in our life, because what are we seeking? It's not the fact that everybody asks, everybody seeks, everybody knocks. It's the object of what you're asking, seeking, or knocking about. Because for everyone asking will receive, the one seeking will find, and the one knocking, it will be open to you. Right? So here's a level. What do we ask for? What do we seek? Well, the Sermon on the Mount kind of answers this question before actually this verse, and it says this. But be seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Which begs the question, what is the kingdom? If I'm really seeking the kingdom, I need to know what the kingdom is. Now, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus, right before, this is Matthew 5, so in Matthew 4, the last of Matthew 4, it says, and he went around Galilee preaching the good news about the kingdom. And people were amazed and were gathering and were coming around. And if you wanted to know what the kingdom was, it then immediately goes into 5, into what he was preaching, which was the Sermon on the Mount. So if we want to know what to be seeking, what to be knocking for, what to try to be finding, here we go. Blessed are the poor in spirit, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. What's poor in spirit? What does that mean? Huh? A poor, humble. Humble. Humble before who, though? Humble before God. I want to point that out in this particular example. Being poor in spirit means you don't have anything to offer the holy God of the universe. He's God, you're not. The original problem of Eve was Eve said, what was Eve tempted with? Eve was tempted with, you won't surely die. He knows you will be like God. Right? So to get away from that, we need to be poor in spirit. We need to see that we are humble before God. This is a seeking place. Next, blessed are the ones who mourn, because they will be comforted. Or this one says the ones mourning. Mourning, plural, happening. This I had a trouble with. We went in my group. This is one of the great things about this Thursday night group is I literally brought. I think we did 2 sessions, Rick, where I struggled with mourning a little bit, going through this. I'm like, what does this really mean? And making a long story short, we came up with knowing that things in this world are not the way they're supposed to be. Right? That's mourning. We mourn the fact that this world is not the way it should be. What is the opposite of mourning? Huh? Joy or rejoicing or celebrating. Okay? If we as Christians are mourning the fact that things are not the way they're supposed to be, how is the world celebrating their life, particularly this month? They are rejoicing in their pride over their condition. They're saying, my condition is just fine. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. This is exactly who I'm supposed to be. And now we're going to celebrate it. Do you see the difference? We know where we're supposed, this is not the way it's supposed to be. They're celebrating that things are exactly the way they should be. There is a difference, and those differences will clash. Blessed are the gentle ones because they will inherit the earth. What's the other word? This is the Ing Bible saying gentle ones. What's the main word here used? Blessed are the meek. Meek kind of is similar to what? Meek and humility are similar. But instead of being humble before God, meekness is humility before who? Other people. Be humble before others. Blessed are the ones hungering and thirsting for righteousness. Again, all of us hunger and thirst for something. It's the object of that hunger and thirst that it comes, right? Blessed are the merciful ones because they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Pure in heart, meaning good, who have unassuming motives. Motives can be interesting. Can you go to church with wrong motives? Can attending church be a problem for you? Sure. It can feed pride. It can feed those things inwardly that just bring out those things in you. The attendance of church has nothing to do with whether you're a Christian or not. It does give you at least, hopefully, some examples of what you should be, but just doing this doesn't make you there. Pure in heart, right motives for doing the things that you do. Blessed are the ones blessed are the peacemakers because they will be called sons of God. This one struck me interesting because the number of times that whether it was Jesus or Paul talked about peacekeeping, peacemakers, people that by their presence kind of bring a sense of resolution to conflict. There's something to that says that's in your spirit. That's not something that you can try to do. It's in your spirit that you just kind of bring about, that people tend to resolve their conflict amongst you and amongst you. And it's an attitude that you're presenting. Blessed are the ones having been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. When we have conflicts with this world, which all of these things are going to have conflicts in this world. This world says you need to be what? Proud. Be proud of who you are, however it is. Right? You need to be celebrating who you are. You need to promote your virtue over everyone else's virtue. Arrogance instead of meekness. Those are the standards of this world. Hunger and thirst for those desires that most fulfill all of the things that you want. Get what's yours. Right? Are those philosophies going to conflict with each other all the time? And so we're going to experience, moving forward, more of those conflicts, and that's going to bring about this little thing called persecution. Do not be treasuring up treasures. I love that. Do not be treasuring up treasures, okay? The Ing Bible. For yourselves on earth where moth and eating destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But be treasuring up for yourselves in heaven where neither moth nor eating destroys and where thieves do not break in nor steal. The Sermon on the Mount provides us this kind of guideline for saying, seek, knock, and ask. But knock for these things that are not of this world. They're the opposite of what this world is. Go after those things. And what you end up doing, do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a person sows, he will also reap. Right? So if you're seeking, if you're asking, and if you're knocking, what are you in essence doing? You're sowing. You're sowing something. We all sow something. We sow seeds of. This is interesting. If you walk through the doors of a congregation, I'm not even going to say ours. Walk through the doors of a congregation, and you have a critical spirit in your heart. What are you going to be sowing? A critical spirit. What are you going to reap? You're going to get that critical spirit coming right back out. If you come in sowing discontent, you're going to be reaping discontent. Does this make sense? I mean, even as believers, we do this. This is not an uncommon, this is not just saying the world has a problem with this. We have a problem with this. It's a constant issue that we have to say. What am I sowing versus what I really want to be reaping? But the one sowing to the Spirit will reap eternal life from the Spirit. And here's the interesting comment here. And let us, because this is the Ing Bible at its kind of wildest. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in his own time we, not losing heart, will reap. That's the literal kind of translation of it. There's a more definite translation I'm going to share here in a little bit. But sowing. What are ways in which we, what's a way in which we sow? What does sowing mean? What are we doing when we sow? Cultivating. That was a good word. I like that. How about this? Giving. Let's get real simple here. What does giving entail? Sharing. Which one? Sharing your time. What else? Huh? What's yours? Sharing something of yours. Sharing your resources, correct? Sharing your skills and talents. Your what? Caring for people. Is that not giving? That is. Right? You're giving of yourself in caring because guess what? If you give of yourself in caring, there can be a non-reciprocal thing that happens that can hurt you, right? There can be a cost to caring. Right? There's a cost. That's part of giving. When I say giving though, typically we all think what? Money. Now money is a lot of things. Money is time, right? In other words, if you have money, you've spent some form of time gaining that money. But sowing really equals what are you giving? What are you giving of yourself? What are you giving of your time? What are you giving of your money? As a church here, we've been blessed. Since before COVID, we gave Will and Brandy a break we call this, it's a sabbatical. We gave them 3 months off, and it ended up being 4 because they ended up teaching at somewhere else for a while. And the church was really at a crossroads at the times. What are we going to do? Who are we going to be? How are we going to be? And is God going to provide for us if we make a pretty massive change in how we do the things we do here? So we got through those 4 months, and Will comes back, and we're all back, and that was about the last week of February of 2020. Okay? Now, what happened in March of 2020? Right? All of a sudden, everything shuts down. We don't meet for 6 weeks here. Nobody knows what's going on. And we have to figure out even greater, how are we going to do this congregation in the midst of challenges that we didn't even foresee? And then as it all progressed, we got back together. We never stopped meeting after about 6 weeks, and everybody was pretty comfortable doing this together. We did this together. But in all that time, we've only really given one real talk on giving here. Now, for better or worse, there's a reason for that. At some level, it is self-serving to Will, right? Will gets up here and says, hey, everybody give, and everybody, there's a common human trait that says, yeah, he wants us to give because we pay his salary. Okay? He doesn't want to lose money. That's not necessarily accurate, but it's very difficult for a pastor who is provided by that way to get up and have that conversation with you on that level. I, on the other hand, being an elder, can do this a little easier. I'm just as like everybody else. I'm giving to the church in my time, resources, monies, everything else, right? But as a church, we have been unbelievably blessed for 3.5 years by not asking for everything. God has simply provided. This church is actually financially stable. We've never had a month where we've gone, you know what, Will, I'm sorry, but we need to take a little bit of your pay away. We haven't had to do that. And churches have had to have that conversation for 3 years, guys. God provided for us in that way. It was amazing. We've never had to find some way to pull back on we've been very good about the budget. We haven't spent exorbitantly. But right now, we have money enough. And by the way, being congregational, you can check our finances anytime. I don't know if you ever knew that. But you can actually come, ask us for our finances. We will give you our financial records showing what our budgeting is and what we put the money to and so forth. But God has not only provided for us, but he's provided us a small cushion. If something happened and giving dropped dramatically, we could probably exist for 3 to 6 months, with what would be coming in and so forth. So we have a small cushion. This is amazing. God provided. But at the same level, by not talking about giving in the large giving sense, I have also denied you guys the opportunity of sharing, of caring, of getting involved. So in this, I am talking a little bit about the giving because we have this endowment fund that's coming up. This is a portion of giving. This is a way to give. It's another way to share something of yourself with the body that's here that has been the congregation. Whether it's tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, doesn't matter. It's a sharing of you with the people. So I encourage you, if you haven't signed up for one of the sessions out there, please do, just to know what it's a little bit about. It may not be for you, it may be for you, but I did want to present that out there. Giving has to do, we have tithes and offerings. We're different here. We don't pass the basket around and guilt you into giving your money. We just say, here are the baskets, please. As you feel ready, come give to us whenever you can, in the tithes and offerings. We don't have a church membership. We don't have roles of membership. We just say, come be a part of us, and as you enjoy being a part of us, you're just a part of us at that point. Interestingly enough, the elders we don't even know how much you give. We don't look. We have no purpose in looking. So when Will's talking to people, he doesn't know if that person's given $2, 2 nickels, or $200,000 to the church. He has no idea. As elders, we don't know either. There's only a couple people that could know because they have to do the accounting for it, and even they try not to pay attention to it. That's kind of how we operate. But I'm asking you of giving, but my real point is this. Why do you give? Out of love. To help others. When you're giving, whether it's of yourself or of money, what are you giving to? God. But let me tell you something about me. Some of the first people I knew in this church were Tim and Jamie Garinger. Okay? We moved a catty corner to Tim and Jamie back in 2011. We became part of a Bible study with them. I don't know of anybody who's faced the challenges of life with the level of faithfulness and even, dare I say, joy in the face of traumatic circumstances than Tim and Jamie. Jamie prayed over me in 2013 before I ever preached a sermon or really even taught a class in the church. I simply had a couple times had led the Bible study that we were in, but I wasn't doing any of this that you see me do today. Jamie pulled me back and my wife back into the room and said, Josh, there's something for you. God's got a gifting on you, and he's going to use that, and I'm going to pray over you that this is going to happen. 12 years later, here I am. That's Jamie Garinger. And guys, when you're giving to somebody, you're not giving to their past, you're giving to their challenges right now. Because if you walk out in that lobby and meet Jamie Garinger, she lost her leg. That's giving. Giving's Josh and Jackie McCauley. Josh and Jackie have been part of this church pretty much since its organization. Off, on. They've given in many ways. The children's ministry that's been up there, the rock climbers, and then the youth. They poured their heart and their souls into your children and into you. Josh McCauley has been writing Bible studies for men. It was for the men's Bible study he did Thursday mornings for 8 years. He has a job in which he has a lot of, he hates when we do this because he hates being told, but he's a helicopter pilot for Lifeline. So he has time where he has a lot of flying, and then he has a lot of downtime waiting to fly. In that downtime waiting to fly, he would put together these Bible studies for 4 men, 3 to 4 to 5 men that would meet out here on Thursday mornings for 6 years. The faithfulness of it, even though very few people were attending. And it just so happens, as I got in, I started listening to it, and I started going, there's something awesome in these. Where's he getting this? And then I found out it was from him, and I went, oh my gosh! And then I shared in it, and I took that into my class and shared it in my class. And then that class grew into what the women are doing. And then that class grew into Will saying, hey, I'm going to do Sunday afternoons from 4 to 6. And there's 20 people out there sharing together. And it began because Josh McCauley was faithful to God in doing this. And that faithfulness led him to the woman that was up here leading us today, Natalia. That's his daughter. They grew up here. When you gave to Natalia. He gave to Jaden. He gave to Jackie. When you give to Lois and Lowell. Guys, when I started this here, nobody's been my champion more than those two. I've loved them. We've shared. They invite anybody and everybody to come here. And they do nothing but enjoy people all the time. Which leads me to Randy and Sandy. He became a part of us. He met Tim one day out there. They've joined us ever since. And all Randy, Sandy do is ask people to come and get to know them. You want somebody who's going to get beyond cliche, that's going to get beyond the facts and get beyond the opinions and get into something emotional, something transparent. Those two are going to do it. They're going to get to know you. And they're going to share their life with you. I want to do something here. Sue, you and Richard stand up. These two. Nobody comes to church here with a better attitude about joy, about wanting to be here, and about sharing with people than these two. I love them. I've enjoyed, when I walk in and they're here, it just brings a smile to my face. And it helps me when my attitude's poor walking in that door. That's it. Well, he's poured his heart into teaching and sharing in a way that doesn't grow a church, okay? When you speak grace and truth, when you tell people this is how you're going to live your life now, that's not very popular in this world. Everybody wants to hear about how bad the world is and about how good they are, and that brings people. But we intentionally don't do that here. We want you to grow in your faith right now. Guys, when you give, this one's going to be hard. Mike Roller. You and Terry. You walk into here and you are a walking, living, breathing example to us all of how to have a right attitude in life when all things say you shouldn't. We love you, brother. And I love that you want to share that with us and you come in. You tried to play ping pong with me, dang it, in this, the way you are, and you did. When you give, these are the things that you're giving to. These are the relationships that you're giving to. There are unmentionables all over the place that I can't. I did, however, get to know Dennis this last couple weekends ago. And you want to know somebody that has interesting story, nonetheless. Interesting challenges. Karen and Dennis are two of the most giving people here. I love them. They just serve. Elliot and Katrina, where are they at? Anyway, I don't see them. There, Elliot's in the back. Challenges in life through health is kind of a common theme in here, and it's no different with them. And despite all of those challenges, they come in here and they just want to serve and love and spend time getting all of this together. Because our worship team, guys, we don't have professional musicians. We didn't hire a bunch of people to come in with a bunch of the smoke and the lights and all the things that a lot of these worship services come to. We've taken the people in this group with their talent and their volunteering and put them on stage. And they said, we're going to share worship with you. That's unbelievable. We have 20, 25 people that will rotate in and out of here because we do it this way. What an amazing gift that is, that we didn't have to go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on people who came in to perform and then to get off stage. It's a blessing. There's Corey. Hi, Corey. I know. Corey and Jen. Just looking, finding, seeking. That's the best way I can tell you to. You guys have sought, knocked, asked. And you walk into ministries that you may or may not even, you don't even know whether it's going to work or not, and you don't care. Thank you. That's what you do. I'm going to do an honorable mention. Holly. Your presence. Okay? You have a presence. And it's awesome. And we love you. Actually, we love your family. Because Audrey and Scott, you're sharing yourselves with us. Thank you. Oh, and there's Paul shaking his head. Hi, Paul. Talk about sharing. That's what giving is. When you give, you find these relationships, you find these places. And I'm going to leave you with this last, because in the previous one it says, and it's really odd wording, it says, and let us not grow weary while doing good, for in his own time we, not losing heart, will reap. But the better way of saying that, and when it has to do with giving, it has to do with what we do here. Why are we doing it? Let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Let me pray. Father, we love you. We praise you. And I thank you for the people of this church. They have taught me and shown me how to walk this walk with others. It's inconceivable to me You have taken people and molded my life so that I see them at least closer to the way you see them. I just ask that everyone here find ways to ask, to seek, to knock, and to do it continually, the things of the kingdom. In their giving of themselves, their skills, their time, their caring, and they're just being a part of this fellowship, because that's what we are. We love you and praise you in your Son's name. Amen.